The Medford Anonymous Series, Part 3.
But I have to say, it's in the upper, it's so honest though. It talks about when people fell away. It talks about Moses, how he had pride, and he killed somebody, and he ran away at 40, and he came back at 80, and he led the Israelites, out of Israel, into Israel, up to the Promised Land, and, from Egypt there. And, so the beauty of it is it admits, the wants and the attitudes of these souls, these people. And that's the beauty. So in the upper room, you got Thomas. He didn't believe. It's like many of us today. We don't believe. It's actually, but when he disappeared, it actually tells you he said, put your hand, where the wounds are.
Wow.
He felt it. So it puts these, and again, people say, it's all made up. There's like the Da Vinci Code. They got, there's another book, The Passover Plot. Like maybe he took hallucinogens. He was on the cross, but he didn't feel anything. And then when, they all thought he was dead, he got off of it. And or the other one, he sired children with Mary, and then, look at the rest of the story. What kind of figure would that be? His disciples are left to, be crucified in other ways and tortured, and he's off with having a family somewhere. I mean, the end result of that kind of thinking, it's, and again, and these people writing these books, I want to go back to Casey for a moment. Here's a man, go at what he did and was used to do on a physical, scientific, practical, what we would call level. People given up by doctors, told they're going to die, told they're going to be in pain. They write this kind of letter. He don't even want to know what's wrong with him because he couldn't understand it consciously. Edgar, can you help me? Anonymous, be in your house at 7:30 on Thursday, and somehow from Virginia Beach to New York, he would see the weather. He'd see my apartment. He'd see what I'm wearing. He'd see through my body. He'd see what's wrong with me, how I got sick. So look at what the man was able to do on this level that was verifiable, provable. Then you get these other folks that, it's again taking us away from the promise of meeting that creative intelligence that put us here. That's a part of it is within us. Trying to take us out like they did in the past. The emperor bow down, or the king bow down, or today the politicians bow down, or corporate heads bow down, or what is it? Or religious figures, in the church or the pope bow down. The point is, now you got a group that got them thinking they're out there in the UFO somewhere. Bow down, look to them. Again, trying to diminish the promise of the kingdom is within you. If they're out there somewhere, which I don't tend to doubt, where did they come from? Go back to square one. Who put them here? Don't you want to know that? Instead of looking at the gifts, why not discover the gift giver? Isn't that like a higher priority?
Well, that's that's an example of Thomas. That's a great example because that's when you're living from the head and you haven't had the experience. It's like I got to see proof. I mean, this sounds ludicrous. So it's like you said, living from the head and then when he finally saw it, it changes everything. Or when you finally have that contact with the spirit, it's like changes everything. Like now it's like now everything you read, you believe now because you've experienced the bread you know not of. Like.
Well, it's true when you have your own experience, but even in the old days, all the miracles worked through Moses, and even with all the miracles, or even Jesus, even though they were happening, I mean, imagine people had this. By the way, people have these figures like they're this, the saddest person. Of course he cried. There was one time in the Bible, the short part of the Bible, he wept. People weren't listening. He knew what was coming. He knew the destructions that were coming. So, but how could you, if you could help somebody with a cold, you feel good. You could help somebody with a piece of bread, a kind word, a smile, you feel good. Imagine somebody's got cancer or heart disease or epilepsy, and you're used to heal them, or blind, or deaf. You think you're walking around sad? He was one of the most joyful, if not the most joyful person. He was in touch with the eternal joy of existence. That didn't mean he was so far looked that he didn't feel. Because that's the thing about opening up. You open up to the beauty of epiphanies of the Spirit's unlimited ecstasy, but you also open up and you're sensitive to the pain of what people are going through, what they will go through. You don't have to wait to see them, commit suicide or go over a cliff. You see it in process, and you feel it. But you're given a strength. It's like the ocean. There's a wave of excitement. You meet somebody, you got a relationship, you got a good job, you made another painting, but behind it, you make a movie. Behind it, there's that low, that depression. So you read about these people. They feel, empty after that. They feel depressed a little bit. But the other part of it is when you get in touch with the depths of the ocean, with the pieces, the meditation, you can handle the ups and downs. You may see somebody who's indeed going to pass away, before they actually do. You may, but you got the strength to deal with it, because the essence of it all in the big picture is that truly there is no death, but we're also partly human, and we do miss people. We don't see them, we don't hear their voice, we can't hug them with our physicality, and our spirit. But we also, the spirit is expressed through the physicality also. But the deeper truth is that, they're still alive. They're even more aware. They're fasting, and everybody's fasting. You get very attenuated. Your mind, your energy. They're fasting from the body. They're more aware of you now than they were when they even had a body. So, when you do your meditations, say your prayers, and you're most tuned up like a magnifying glass. Say your prayers for them. Say hello. You keep seeking that radiant light like the sun, not the moon, reflected light. And to the people down here, send your love to them. It's no less than a radio. You turn on, those waves are traveling. And they're effective. And it's a practice. It's a practice. But I want to say about those geese again. Think about the geese, they mate for life. You know that?
No.
Yeah. Animals, right? Animals. They actually, they'll mate for life unless man interrupts it. Or, maybe they're flying with somebody to get a sense of power. They'll take their gun out and shoot them out of the sky and think, I'm a man. And then they lost their mate, But they otherwise left alone, they'll be faithful. This is an animal that we use a term animal. There are different, consciousnesses even in the animals, because they go into their own evolution too. I'll give you an example. I have a cat, Oliver. Oliver never had a cat, but we got him now 5 years. He never did this before or since. One night, about 2 years ago, I tried to go to sleep at 2 in the morning. 3 in the morning. And he just came over to me, and he's pushing his paw into my left cheek, and I'm like, Oliver, I gotta sleep. And he's pushing me. He's not tapping. He's pushing my other cheek. He don't want me to go to sleep. Why? Well, before you know it, the fire trucks come. The ladder went to the top of the building, and then there was a fire, electrical fire, in the apartment across from me, the floor below and the floor below the walls. Never been done before or since.
Wow.
Tell me there's a little bit of God in this creature. We're here to be put here to be eaten by us. And those who do it, well, I would say you get calloused, and you get insensitive, and it affects you physically and mentally, and ultimately spiritually, because it's just one step away from that to what's going on with what people do to people. And if you don't see that connection, I can only say you have a disconnect. So it's barbarous, like Leonardo da Vinci said. Many people don't even know. They know him for a lot of things, but they don't know. His main art was art as it is. Our main art is the art of living. It's not playing a guitar or any other art. Those arts are important, but it's not the main art. Because there are many people who have those other arts down very well, and they still commit suicide. So, what happened? see these people, these celebrities, and we'll keep seeing them. All this money, all this fame, all beautiful looking. Why are they on these substances? Why are they trying to numb the pain they feel? Even people like Whitney, reading the Bible. Did they show her how to meditate? There's a question. Yeah, the singing is great, the camaraderie, helping people. The Spirit comes upon us. There is grace. The Spirit will come upon a killer. Did it with Saul, Paul, but there's grace, but then there's work we have to do. The Spirit comes upon us. There is grace. The Spirit will come upon a killer. Did it with Saul, Paul, but there's grace, but then there's work we have to do. Instead of looking at the gifts, why not discover the gift giver? Isn't that like a higher priority?